phonics, now to graphemically, or according to writing. Now I've got to write it down and preserve it for someone who's not there to hear me say it. But here's the problem. They speak a different language than I do. And so Greek doesn't have the same syllabary, doesn't have the same exact sounds that Hebrew does. So what do you got to do? You got to choose the closest sounds that you can. Because according to the rules of linguistics, I hope I don't drag this out too long, but I think this is an important question. It's a very divisive subject in the Hebrew roots movement or Messianic movement, or what do we call ourselves today. And so in order to preserve it, we're going to have to write it down. Well, there's rules to that. All right? And the rules are this. Proper nouns must be transliterated. Proper nouns are people's names, cities, towns, mountains, etc. I believe I heard you last night. You stumbled for just a second, but that's because you were reading. Mao Zedong, remember?
Yes.
I was listening. Okay, anyway, so Mao Zedong. That is a proper noun. So you don't take Mao Zedong and translate it into some other words when you use it in American history books. You say what? Mao Zedong. Why? Because everybody in this room can say Mao Zedong. Okay, so we're okay with that. All right. Now, here's the thing about transliteration. When you transliterate a proper name, like your name, or my name, or Yeshua's name, or the Creator's name, if I take someone's name and I copy the sounds in another language, guess what I've just done? I've just made up a whole new word. Now, I don't want to offend anybody out there, but I'm saying that there's people out there that will convince you that Jesus, or Jesus, means Hail Zeus, or the horse god, or some kind of thing like that.
All right? Really?
Oh yes. Oh, yes.
I live in a sheltered world.
Need to get out. And there's all kinds of explanations there about what his name means. And there are some places, historically, where that has kind of taken place. But linguistically, and I mean with respect to language, that is nonsense. Because anytime you take someone's name, which is special to them, all right, and you transliterate it, copy the sounds into another language, you just made up a whole new word that wasn't there before. Because it's not a common noun like snake or TV or king or bowl or, book. Those are common nouns which you would translate into other languages, because all languages have basically a word for book and snake and TV and chair. All right? But someone's name, they do not. And so you just made it up. So here's the bottom line, which I don't want to offend anybody, but the reality is Jesus or Jesus means nothing. That's right. It just simply means nothing. That's why when you look it up in a dictionary anywhere, it's going to take you back to the Hebrew, isn't it, Al? It's going to take you back to transliteration of Yeshua or whatever in Hebrew, Yehoshua, Joshua, and so forth, because the Hebrew word Yehoshua and Yeshua both get translated into Jesus in the Septuagint. Into the Greek language, okay? So it could be either one of those. But nonetheless, you just made up a whole new word. And so the bottom line is, I believe, according to the written evidence that we have, that his name was more than likely Yeshua. And the same would be true with the Tetragrammaton. Everybody talks about Yod-He, Wah-He, or Yod-He, Vav-He. And a lot of people say things like, well, why do you say Yahweh? Because according to Hebrew grammar, a vowel has to follow every consonant in Hebrew. So it would have to be something like Yahuwah or Yehovah, okay, or something like that. Because in Hebrew grammar, a vowel follows every consonant. And so you've got the four, except for the last letter. The last letter doesn't need to be so, but the other ones do. But here's the problem. That's modern Hebrew grammar. We have no idea whether Moses, or at the time of Moses, that a vowel had to follow every consonant in the language. We don't know that. Because most of what we have those is the recorded consonants. We don't have a vowel structure recorded there. That is something that over time, because one of the things that I believe with all my heart is that languages in general, but Hebrew, since that's the one I love the most, has devolved. It's not evolved.
Right.
I believe that many linguists today are very, very much Darwinists. They have that evolutionary kind of point of view that languages have been evolving over the centuries. I believe that it has been devolving. In other words, I believe when it first started out, it was something a child could understand, and it was brilliantly simple. And now over time, starting with the Tower of Babel, which hopefully we'll get into later on today or tomorrow, as the land began to be divided, then the people began, see, three things all got divided at the same time: the land, the people, and the language. Now we have 6,500 plus languages in the world, not including what do we call it? The computer language that we use now. There's a word they have for that. When people are texting each other and they misspell everything, you know, whatever it is. And now we're getting to a point where we're not even going to be able to spell anymore because of these little abbreviations that we do when people are texting and so forth. So now we have another whole computer language that we have to add to all the other languages in the world. So do you think languages have evolved? Or do you think they're getting worse? I think they're getting more corrupt as we go, and that what the Father's in the business of doing now is restoring back to the peoples the pure language. And so that's kind of the first question there.
It also,
short question.
You know, I'm like you, I just read a few things once in a while, but the thing I guess caught me about Yeshua was, what does the word really mean? Jesus doesn't mean anything.
That's right.
I check and see if there's any crosses burned out in the front yard yet.
But give it a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
But you're right. Only in Hebrew. And once again, that's
right.
The reason why I want to teach this language, is because you get some greater insight and greater understanding into what it means when it's in Hebrew. I remember joining some church many years ago, and the pastor had been through seminary and been through all the schools, had all the PhDs, all the letters, you know, behind the name and so forth, and had been a pastor for many years. As a matter of fact, he was about ready to retire when this happened. And all I said to him before the service started was that his name was Yeshua. I wasn't there trying to make him look stupid or anything. I wasn't there to do anything like that. I just said, well, you know, his name is Yeshua. And he looked at me and he said, which means, and he said salvation. I said, it means salvation. Okay? And so at the end of the service, he's got the altar call. You know, the usual altar call at the end of the service. And he's calling people up at the front, and he says, as he's calling up at the front, he says, for the first time in my life, he says, I want to bring people up here to receive Yeshua. And he looks at everybody and goes, did you know that his name was Yeshua? And Yeshua means salvation? And that was
beautiful.
That was a well-degreed person, almost in his 70s, that now understands something so simplistic as that. And that is something, one of two things that have always stayed with me all of my life, and they're both kind of related, is to keep it simple as we possibly can and stop trying to make people think how smart we are and so forth, because their lives are at stake. You know, it's not, and one of the things that's always affected me the most, and maybe I've been here, I've been on GLC now, I think my first time was with Bill Cloud back in 2003, so I may have said this once or twice already on the program, so excuse me if I do, if I repeat it, but doing a seminar, I don't remember, 10, 12 years ago, and I got the chalkboard and the erasers and everything, and I got spit flying and everything, going to town over the language, you know, and showing how smart I am up on the board, and doing this for about 3 hours, and we get done with the session, and then we have a little break. And at the end of the little break, there's this elderly man at the back of the room. I mean, he had everything but a corncob pipe. I mean, he had the coveralls, he had the straw hat, you know, and he was been out in the sun a long time. You know what I mean? Okay? In other words, he was a hard-working man.
Yes.
And I would guess maybe in his 70s, something like that. And after all this stuff, all this fancy stuff I went through, he walks up and he's shaking a little bit and he's holding out his hand like this. And he grabs my hand like this. Sorry, that happens once in a while. I don't know if I can tell it. Okay. I'm okay. He grabs my hand. He says, Mr. Scott, he says, you mean Jesus was a Jew?
Wow.
Absolutely floored me. I thought to myself, how shamed I was, to spend all that time trying to impress everybody with this or whatever, when the biggest mark that had been made on that man for that 3 hours is to first come to the realization that he didn't even know his Messiah was a Jew.
Was a Jew.
And to realize that we really need to be about the business of keeping these things so very simple.
Amen.
And trying not to outsmart everybody, and trying not to raise our ship by sinking everybody else's ships too. Okay? I see that going on all the time. Rather than just talking positively about what I do, rather than saying anything negative about what someone else is doing, what someone else's ministry is, or the way they do it. I'll just let my ship rise, because I'm just going to deal with my ships. And if all the other ships rise up with it, well, then that's just fine too. Right? But that's kind of the point of it.